back to another edition of Money Matters with Matt. I'm excited to reveal today's topics. We are going through 5 things that learning to solve a Rubik's Cube has to do with our financial literacy journey, using the Rubik's Cube as a metaphor and an opportunity to understand the process of developing our financial literacy. The thing with both Rubik's Cubes and money is it doesn't have to be complicated, but when we don't understand the steps that it takes to get to the completed thing that we're trying to do, it becomes overwhelming, challenging, and exhausting to try to figure it out on our own. Not everyone can complete a Rubik's Cube, especially not the first time they pick it up. But many people that I've spoken to want to be able to pick up a Rubik's Cube and solve it. It looks cool at a party. I don't know what kind of parties you're at if that's what makes you look cool, but that's what I've experienced. Anyways, so the Rubik's Cube has a very set series of patterns that are used to be able to help us understand how to solve it. But the reality is, for many of us, that as we go through and begin our journey of understanding finances, we really have no idea what we're doing, and our financial situation looks a lot like a messed up Rubik's Cube. There are colors all over the place, there's patterns that don't exist, we have no idea why some things are in some places or how to get them to the points we want them to be. We have to, at some point, acknowledge that this is a pretty messed up Rubik's Cube, and so is our finances. The first thing that comes up when we are dealing with our financial literacy is admitting that we don't know what we're doing. When it comes to our financial understandings, much like it comes to the first time we pick up a Rubik's Cube, we try to move and flick our fingers around in a way to try to get something to come together in some sort of a resembled pattern. And as we try to figure out the red side of this Rubik's Cube, we can twist our fingers here and there, and maybe we get a little bit of it solved, but not really gaining much momentum. And when we look at the other colors, we are so far away from being able to solve the other colors as we just try to manipulate our way to getting the red side solved. So the Rubik's Cube and our finances both benefit greatly when we stop doing random things and begin to acknowledge that we actually need some assistance and don't know how to do this. Because the reality is both with a Rubik's Cube and with money, it doesn't need to be complicated, but it is difficult to understand the principles and processes, the steps that are applied to be able to see success in this area of life. When you're learning to solve a Rubik's Cube, you look for resources in different areas. Maybe you go on YouTube and you research a video to see if you can find a way to solve a Rubik's Cube. What I've found in my time of desiring to solve Rubik's Cubes is that there is a really simple way that involves 7 basic steps, each building off of each other to accomplish a different thing that solves a Rubik's Cube. The first step is this: to get the white cross in place with the appropriate matching colors on every side. Just like this, our financial journey and the literacy that we take begins with an acknowledgement of, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to be humble enough to look for resources and people who have a much better understanding of this than I do. Maybe that search brings you to a local library. Maybe it brings you to a Google search where you get to go, hey, how do I invest? Maybe that search brings you to YouTube where you find someone who is able to demonstrate. Or it brings you to a friend, a parent, a mentor, or someone in your life who's gone before you and has been able to develop and show you what it is. And just like that, we have the white bottom with the corresponding lower range finished. Our financial literacy journey is also greatly increased by the reading of books. Maybe that's audiobooks, maybe it's paper books as we go to our library or we purchase them from a local bookstore. But either way, we need to begin with this admission of I'm not sure what I'm doing, and therefore I want to understand the patterns that exist that I don't yet see. When I first picked up a Rubik's Cube, I had no idea what a pattern was for solving a Rubik's Cube. But as I began to become a little bit more proficient in the patterning, I began to see those patterns take place. After we've admitted that we don't know what we're doing, we begin our financial literacy journey. We go from unaware to aware very fast. Our unawareness goes, I don't know how to solve this. It's so random. And our awareness goes, oh, there's patterns that can cause me to be able to solve this effectively. The downside is that awareness only tells me more about what I don't understand. It doesn't actually help me understand it. So our next step in this journey of financial literacy is beginning to understand what the literature is actually talking about. This means we seek out new information, we assess the information we have, we apply the information, and then we perfect the information that we gather. And so as we go along, we begin to seek. We've sought. Now I assess. Does this information make sense? Can I understand it? And then as we get to that point in our journey of financial literacy, we begin to apply it. Maybe we open up a stock account with Wealth Simple. Maybe we begin to set aside some extra money into our short-term savings account to deal with our unexpected expenses. Maybe we have an emergency fund that we fund, or we realize how dangerous and detrimental consumer debt is in our lives, and so we begin to absolutely annihilate consumer debt from our lives. And as we go, we apply this, and then we perfect our habits. The habits that we have learned through what we've sought. Something that so often happens as we begin to learn a new topic, we begin to see the patterns that exist in it. Oh, every time I use my money in this way, this is the return I get. Every time I solve this layer of the Rubik's Cube, now we have all the bottom layers done, as well as the corresponding centers and the yellow cross. We are getting really close to our completed cube, and on our financial literacy journey, as we've been seeking and applying and perfecting, we are also getting to this point where I like to call it the obsession, where all of a sudden we are desiring to understand more information, not because we're unaware, but because we go, I think there's more to know. I want to do this better. I want to do it in greater capacities, in greater amounts. When you begin to pay off debt and you see the debt going down, you get fired up and you want to pay it off faster. When you start investing into dividend-paying companies and you start to get dividend paychecks sent back into your bank account monthly or quarterly or annually, you get fired up. And all of a sudden you start seeing life in a different way because you understand a pattern that now you want more information on. You want to go deeper and understand in a greater capacity. And that's the next phase of our financial journey, is this passion or obsession process where we just become so excited about the things that we're learning and the things that we are getting to do. With each step in this journey, we can see that we're getting a little bit closer to what we thought was one day just a pipe dream. But today actually looks like it's close at hand. Like we can taste it. We can see what our dreams were made of. And at some point we get to the point where we are just flowing in a way where we know that what we're doing is right in line with the financial journey and the plans that we've begun to put into place. The earlier we understand these principles in life and the earlier we begin to adopt them, the easier it is to see these plans come into place faster. Compound is on our side. And one day we stop, we look, we smell the roses, and we go, I see the end in sight. And just like that, not only is our Rubik's Cube solved, But through the increase of financial literacy, the applying of those truths, the perfecting of those principles, we understand that both the Rubik's Cube and the money don't have to be complicated. That they are actually quite simple once we understand the underlying principles and steps that are required to get them to function in the way that we're trying to get them to function. What's so cool about this step of the Rubik's Cube, or that step of financial literacy to the point of where what we've been trying to do actually happens, is that we're in a position now where we can help others do the same thing. Where we can begin to teach that to our children or our children's children. Where we can share in the enjoyment of having financial wealth and well-being that allows us to be able to actually extend our hands of help into other people's lives. These don't need to be complex. But if we don't understand it, if we allow ourselves to just continue in illiteracy, never being humble enough to ask the question, hey, how can I do that? Taking the time to seek the answer and apply the knowledge and perfecting it along the journey, this will always be an elusive conclusion for us. Randomness doesn't produce something of completion. Steps and processes do. Financial literacy is the exact same. As we understand and grow more, we will be more in tune with the steps and processes that we need to be applying. So, I hope that you go grab a book on financial literacy, maybe follow a YouTube channel, like and subscribe to a video like this, and in your financial journey, you will begin to see the steps that it takes to be able to solve the problems and the challenges that come with these complexities in our life, understanding that they are actually process steps that we just need to learn to apply. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next week for another edition of Money Matters with Matt.